Paddy Andrews, we're after watching the 2022 All-Ireland final. Kerry have beaten Galway by 4 points. Can you just describe for us what we've just watched?
Yeah, look, I thought it was actually an excellent game in the end. We felt it might be very cagey. We felt scores would be hard to come by, but to be fair, the second half it opened up. Kerry struggled in the first half. They were a point down at half time. Galway were making all the running. Shane Walsh was putting on one of the most phenomenal All-Ireland final displays. They kicked 9 points, but the 4 points he got from play were absolutely incredible. And you think just maybe Galway are going to get over the line here. But to be fair to Kerry, they make big changes at half time. Jack O'Connor takes out David Moore and Paul Geaney, two of the most experienced guys, and they got a bounce out of that with Killian Spillane. Paddy Clifford came into the fore as well in the second half, and Kerry, as we felt they probably would in the end, just pull away. Galway, if they're being honest, probably over the last 10 minutes just ran out of gas, and Kerry's greater firepower, led by the man David Clifford, to hit 8 points himself, going toe to toe with Shane Walsh. He's delivered on the biggest stage, and he's got Kerry's first All-Ireland in 8 years. And to be fair, I think over the course of the entire game, they're probably full value for us.
You say that, but we're a couple of minutes after full time here, and it sort of feels like Galway collectively put in a better performance for the first 60 minutes. What happened then?
They ran out of gas. That's what we said this coming. The All-Ireland final, the last quarter is massive. That's it. And there's no point in being brilliant for 30 minutes or 40 or 50. The game's going to go on for roughly 80 minutes. And Kerry down the stretch just had a little bit more. They get a couple of fist of points. Killian Spillane, that man off the bench. Gavin White, who to be fair put in a storming second half display. Having kind of been touch and go all week. We didn't know if he'd play. And David Clifford clipping scores. And he just felt once they got the 2 or 3 points ahead, Galway just didn't have the answers. They have a little revival on 63 minutes when Walsh kicks a free, and then Killian McDade, who was incredible, 4 points from play from midfield. And Galway get it back 16 points each. But over the next 10 minutes, they're outscored 4 points to 0. That's the championship minutes down the stretch, and Galway were brilliant. They had put in a phenomenal performance for those first 65 minutes, but over the course of the game, Kerry just had too much coming down the stretch, and it's a brilliant victory for Jack O'Connor and for those Kerry players. They've answered a lot of questions, and to be fair to them, they are deserving of All-Ireland champions. Right from the first whistle in January with the McGrath Cup, steamrolled the National League, the Munster Championship, took out Dublin along the way, and they've beaten Galway now as well. So it's a well-earned All-Ireland title for Kerry, and well-deserved over the course of the season.
There's a couple of things there I want to pick up on. Let's just start with David Clifford, right? Because whatever about the 8 points, he played with fire throughout that game. He was a leader for his teammates. There was times he got massive scores when they really needed them.
Well, like I said, the first half, Kerry scored 2 points from play. They're massively struggling against that set defence, and everything we said in advance of the game was coming to light. Kerry were really, really struggling to break down that defence. Graham O'Sullivan, they're kind of David Moore, and they're launching in long balls, at times possibly pretty aimless. But Clifford, unbelievable, just gets on the end of them. Throw Sean Kelly out of the way. It says proper leadership. Sean O'Shea doesn't score from play. You know, Paddy Clifford very quiet in the first half. Geaney has a couple of misses. They were looking to Clifford. They were looking to him to lead them over the line. And that first half display, as good as he was in the second half, I thought his first half was incredible because it kept Kerry in touch. He was the man keeping Kerry in the game. And without him, they go down 3 or 4 points at half time instead of just the one. And some of those marks, it was the only real bit of joy the Kerry attack was getting in the first half. It opens up a bit more in the second half, but you're right, through the course of the entire game, he was the guy leading the fight right from the first whistle. We know his technical ability, we know he can finish. He's one of the most iconic finishers in the game, but his mentality and his leadership today was incredible. And he's been a starring role in getting this Kerry team over the line, and he's been knocking on the door for 3 or 4 years now, and they've come up short. But he's got his hands on the Sam Maguire today, and there's no player deserving more.
Can we just have a word on Shane Walsh too? Like, in terms of the losing final performance, himself and McDade were both sensational. John Daly was very good, but Shane Walsh's kicking today was absolutely flawless.
Yeah, it was, and we said it. He's been quiet in the last couple of games. Everyone knows Shane Walsh's talent, and you're pulling your hair out, nearly looking and going, "This guy is incredible," but he just needs to be consistent, deliver a performance. And today, like I say, to kick 9 points, but the 4 points he gets from play are absolutely sensational. The one in the second half, he's marking Tom O'Sullivan, one of the best defenders in the game, and he kicks 2 absolute monsters in the second half. He was a joy to watch today. It's a shame he's on the losing side, I'd like to say, along with Killian McDade, who was driving forward. But we said it beforehand, if Galway were going to win this game, they needed every one of their players to have an 8, a 9 out of 10. That wasn't the case today. Paul Conroy comes off with 10 minutes to go, doesn't really get into the game, no scores. Damien Comer doesn't have a shot from play. The hero of the semi-final, but he's well bottled up by Jason Foley. And despite Shane Walsh's brilliance, Galway just couldn't afford that. If they were going to upset Kerry today and bring home the Sam Maguire for the first time in over 20 years, they needed all of those guys to be on the money. And as brilliant as Shane Walsh and McDade were, they'll regret those performances. They just didn't have enough firepower in the end.
Is there enough there when you're looking at Galway as losers? Is there enough there for them to build and come back again and have another assault at an All-Ireland title?
Look, we said at the start of the season the Sam Maguire race was wide open. There's 4, 5, 6 teams who genuinely have realistic ambitions of doing it. And Galway, to be fair to them, the progress they've made, where they've come from in January to where they are now, they've made massive strides. Pádraig Joyce, Cian O'Neill, it's in the energy around the team, around the county, the supporters. There's a good feeling around Galway football again. They will be back. It's going to be difficult for them to get to the All-Ireland final. They're back in Division 1 next year. They've made huge progress. They've got a taste of it now. And with guys like McDade and Walsh, they're not exactly over the hill. They still have energy in the legs. It's going to be a big ask because, look, Tyrone are going to come back, Dublin are going to come back, Mayo, new management are going to come back in it. It is a massive opportunity when you're here, when you're in the All-Ireland final. You need to try and make it count. I think coming down the stretch there, we just found one thing, but if you look at the season as a whole for Galway, they've come from nowhere. Last year, bullied by Mayo in the Connacht final, really bad defeat, relegated to Division 2. That's some turnaround in the last 8 months they've had. So yes, they'll be bitterly disappointed today, but Pádraig Joyce and those players can look back with pride over what they've done over the last 7 months, and it gives them something, it gives them a hunger and an edge to come back next season and try and get back here again.
We'll be talking on the Football Pod with James O'Donoghue in about 24 hours. Episode 30 will drop. In the cold light of day, we might get a bit more of a chance to properly analyse Kerry's approach and tactics. Would I be right in saying they looked a little surprised by Galway's setup, or a little bemused by it?
Yeah, to be fair, it looked like that. They could not possibly have been. The man on the street knew how Galway were going to set up this game. And to be fair, it was working. That was a massive question we had over Kerry. The quarter-final win over Mayo and the semi-final win over Dublin, while there were massive wins, those were far more open games, and there was a lot more space for the forward unit. Kerry, the question mark has been how they deal with set defences, and that first half they were not dealing with it at all. Like you say, the only real tactic seems to be we launch the ball in long, and Clifford gets his hands on a couple of them. It looked a bit rudderless from Kerry in the first half, but to be fair, like you say, Jack O'Connor, experienced, makes the change in the second half. They get a bit more structure in their play. Paddy Clifford again, like he did in the semi-final in that second half, when the game started opening up, he was a key link player for Kerry, and then they're getting Clifford in a bit more space to kick scores as well. So Galway tired a bit, that created the space, and when that forward line has space, they're very, very hard to stop. They still kick 20 points to win the All-Ireland. So yes, as maybe as flat as they looked in the first half and kind of clueless at times in their attacking game, they turned it on in the second half and they've done enough to win this.
Well, Jack was ruthless at half-time. He made his changes. Like, you've been part of a panel that has seen half-time changes in an All-Ireland final plenty of times. Jim Gavin, Jim McConnelly came on for you in one final, did he?
17, yeah, and that's, look, if it wasn't going well for Kerry, so that's, Jack O'Connor's an experienced manager, and that was I said it at half-time. He was brought back to win the All-Ireland, and this was the acid test now. There's no point of being brilliant in January, February and March. This is when you're going to earn your corner. To be fair to him, he makes big changes because Geaney and Moran are massive personalities in that team. They've put their shoulder to the wheel for Kerry over the last 10 years, but it wasn't happening for him. And to be fair, if Jack has the firepower on the bench, he doesn't think twice, brings in both the Spillans, and Killian has a wide in his first play, and you're thinking, Jesus, is this going to backfire? But to be fair, he caused Galway massive trouble in that second half, and totally vindicated. You have to say that. And for Jack O'Connor, a third stint winning All-Ireland with Kerry, he was brought back to do this, and he's delivered. He's beaten Dublin, and he's beaten Galway to win the All-Ireland, won the National League, won the Munster Championship. It's been a phenomenal season and a phenomenal comeback for him, and well deserved.
Last question, and it's a cheap one. Predict for me how many All-Irelands Kerry are going to win this decade.
Jeez, no idea. That is a ridiculous question. Like, it's wide open, and Kerry, this is not, they didn't steamroll anyone.
No.
Yes, they're in pole position. They've got one of the most incredible players we've ever seen in the game in David Clifford, and at an age where he's got another, probably you'd think 5 or 6 years at the absolute peak of his power. So they're going to be a handful. They're right in the mix to win it next year. But like I said, this year's All-Ireland, at the final today, it was wide open. There was 4 or 5 teams. It was an exciting championship. Yes, there were some poor games, but in terms of who was ultimately going to win the biggest prize, you were kept guessing right until the very end. Like I say, there's 3 or 4 teams who are going to be in the mix coming back next year. See what Mayo do with a new coach. See who comes out of Ulster. Donegal looking for a new coach as well. And then the Dubs as well. Push Kerry all the way. I know they're disappointed with losing an All-Ireland semi-final. So look, it's been an exciting championship, but over the course of the entire season, you've got to say Kerry are deserving All-Ireland champions, and congratulations to them.
Paddy Andrews, thank you very much. I'll chat to you tomorrow on the Football Pod, and subscribe to the OTB GA podcast feed. You'll get all the reaction and analysis from Paddy and James and plenty more of our pundits. Thanks, Paddy.
Thanks, lads.